Welcome back to the podcast. This episode is going to be released in July 2025. And I don't know if you remember, but a couple episodes back, probably like the mid to end of June, I had announced that I had been invited to be a guest speaker at a virtual legal seminar. If you made it to the event, awesome. I'm sure you walked away with some great notes and action items to improve your firm. If you didn't make it, don't worry, because this episode of the podcast is going to be a replay of my segment. So there were 4 different segments. The entire afternoon was about 2 hours, and each segment was like 20 to 25 minutes each. And my segment was called Getting Paid Faster and Smarter. I was paired up with Kim Bennett. She is the co-founder of Fidu Legal. If you offer subscription-based legal services, please check out Fidu Legal. You will not be disappointed. It's an amazing tool that will help you with your practice. And I love this whole segment. I was excited by it. It was a great conversation. And our moderator, Erika Segal, asked some amazing questions, which prompted a great conversation between Kim and I. So enjoy this podcast. And again, this podcast is just our segment, but I will leave the link to the entire 2-hour event in the show notes below. Enjoy. Welcome to your Profitable Law Firm podcast. I'm Kelley Brubaker, your dedicated host, passionate about empowering law firm owners. Let's dive into the hidden strategies that lead to overflowing profits, scaled growth, and thriving lives. And this is where overwhelm transforms into confidence, enabling you to create and enjoy your dream firm and your dream life.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed a few minutes of a break there, maybe got a snack, a little sip of water. We're going to head into our third fire session here. Before we get into that, I just want to be the one to also give you a personal invitation to Kaleidoscope. Now, this is very exciting for our current session here because I actually have 2 Kaleidoscope speakers sitting here with me. So just a reminder, as you saw on the screen earlier, we do have a special promo code for you guys here today if you do want to register to attend Kaleidoscope right here in Austin, Texas from September 2nd through 4th. Code virtual will be able to get you registered for $4.95. So as we're speaking of Kaleidoscope right now, and I have 2 speakers with me, I would love to hear from you both, from Kim and Kelley. What are you most looking forward to about Kaleidoscope? I'll start with you, Kim.
Okay, first I'm going to say I love Austin. So coming back to Austin is always
Okay,
a win.
great.
Okay.
We'll take that.
So win for Austin. 2, I love connecting with people. So meet me there. Let's chat. We can have a side conversation. I love that. I love connecting and meeting new people, talking about innovation, seeing what's happening, how people are doing different things in the law, particularly as AI is transforming the law. So that's something else. And then I'm excited to speak and, to help you think about your billing model. If you heard me talk before, you're not going to be surprised at my thoughts there. But, to help you unlock, to rethink, and just really be in community with people who are about changing the industry for good.
That's great. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of opportunities for knowledge sharing like that. So they'll definitely get that. What about you, Kelley?
Yeah, same thing. I mean, for me, this will be my first in-person conference I've been to in a while. And a lot of things that I've been speaking at have been virtual. So just the energy and excitement of being in person with people and just that connection. And I throw out the same invitation as Kim, come find me. I will sit and talk to you about anything. It doesn't even have to be about business. So we just sit and chat. Yes. It would be nice.
Which is very exciting for me that I have the opportunity to talk to you both today, as we did yesterday a bit as well. We have a great topic here. We're going to talk about really some of the things that I feel are most important, getting paid faster and smarter. I mean, we talk about this a lot, but for good reason. Yep. There's a lot to talk about here. So I'm going to jump right in. We're going to talk a little bit about some billing bottlenecks and maybe, breaking that cycle. So my first question that I'm going to throw out to both of you, and, everyone's going to chime in here, is kind of what's one example of a firm that you've worked with or that you've seen that saw some measurable results after rethinking their billing cadence?
I could chat through at least a couple, but one that comes top of mind for me is, of course, moving from hourly to predictable, like flat fee and subscription. And so what I've seen on multiple occasions, but I'm thinking about a particular firm where they were a mix of hourly and a mix of flat fee. And then they really decided to kind of rip that Band-Aid off and move to completely subscription and flat fee. And so that meant for them no more accounts receivable. That meant for them no more like chasing unpaid bills. That meant for them, increased cash flow, increased revenue. And then it just allowed for them to take some more time off, right? To decide that meant spending more time with their family because they have kids and they wanted to spend time with their family. And so they didn't have to sacrifice money, growth, client service by moving away from something that was administratively like stressful, hourly billing, to something that was more predictable, forecastable, flat fee and subscription. So that's something that I've seen. And that was like just one particular customer, but like I could see that happening multiple times across several people because they moved away from hourly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, I'm on the same page with Kim. Let's get rid of the hourly billing. But I know there's that, my flat fee, I know. But I understand the resistance. I really do. And now I'm a CPA. I have an accounting firm. For me, probably 95% of my work is fixed rate. So, and I bill in advance, from the onset what it is, but I have a handful of special projects that I really just can't get a handle on until I'm in it to understand how much it's going to be. I hate sitting and tracking all my time. So I really lean towards, a known ahead of time what the rate is going to be for both of us, but I've had clients over the years who I just can't convince them and they're stuck on the hourly billing. Okay. But the big complaint is unpredictable cash flow. And some of my first questions are, do you have a cadence of when you bill? And I'm like, what do you mean? Do you bill? Right. Your answer just told me you don't.
You're right.
And so, I'll see firms that are struggling with cash flow. And it's because, well, this month we billed, on the first week of the month, but then the next time it was the second week of the month. Well, clients can't pay you when you're hourly. They can't pay you until they get a bill. And so, I've worked with a lot of firms, like you've got to get that bill out as fast as possible at month end. And I would even highly encourage billing every other week or every week. Just bill the last, whatever your whip was last week, bill it, like get it out the door, because the faster you can bill, the faster people can pay you. So,
yeah.
And nobody wants out, like, they don't want to wait for the bill, right? I don't know, like the thing that I've seen
yesterday.
when I've seen like other like big wins for someone moving and like is just really like having the clients just make the payment, right? Like not chasing that AR. And when you have this lack of predictability, when you don't have it, it just creates friction for everyone.
Absolutely.
So the win is immeasurable, and I've seen it time and time again with customers, with clients. In my firm, I used to bill by the hourly, that many, many moons ago, but that was something that allowed for me to get out of that kind of friction.
Absolutely. And like you said, it's a win not only for the firm, but for the firm's clients. Because, if they're, most people get paid, if you have a lot of individual clients, they get paid every other Friday. Most people get paid every other Friday. And you send them a bill and, this time it's week 1 of the month and then it's week 2. Yeah. Now you're falling in between their pay, right? Yep. And it just becomes very difficult. So the more predictable you can be on both sides, it's a win for the firm and for your clients.
So that really leads well into our next question, because I know you said, it's a win for both of us. However, I'm sure some firms out there are really worried that they're going to get some pushback from their clients about this more frequent invoicing. So how can you guys speak to how a firm might introduce that change without creating that tension that they think is going to come?
Yeah. Well, I'll say at the outset, do it early. Like, don't wait till the time it's time to send out the bill to say, oh, we're going to change off, right? I think it's like truly. Yeah. Like, I think there's so much opportunity in your marketing, right? To just talk about how you do it differently, right? Bring it in early, bring it before they become a client. So then when they go from marketing to getting on that consult, they're hearing you talk about it. And then you say to them when they become a client, if you're shifting, hey, we're looking to shift. This is why we're shifting. This is going to help you. And you communicate clearly and often, put it in writing, put it on video, send reminders, just make it easy so that no one forgets. People hire us as attorneys when they're in the midst of like either a crisis or an amazing opportunity, but they're flustered, they're anxiety ridden, right?
Something's different.
Yeah. So like just communicate it early, as early as possible, from marketing through sales and after, so that you can bring that to the forefront without it being an uncomfortable conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I encourage when I'm talking to my clients, put it in your retainer agreement. This is how often we bill. But you're right. Talk about it in your marketing, in your intake. I encourage you when somebody books the first call, or depending on what your type of practice is, if you get that first call that comes in, as soon as they hang up, send out an email and it has a video that talks about, hey, these are the things that you can expect working with us. And that's one of the things is we're going to bill every other week, or we bill on the first of the month, or whatever that is, but give them the warning of how it works. And because you're setting the pace for this relationship. So that, just put it out there and communicate. I mean, if somebody pushes back, what are they pushing back on? You're still billing them the same amount of money.
Right.
It's just, and we talked about this yesterday, I would rather see a $200 bill every week than to send me a, $1,000 or $1,200 bill once a month. I'm choking on the $1,200, but I'm like $200. I'm like, that's painful, but I'll pay it.
Right.
And then I forget about it. And then next week I get a new one. I'm like, oh, okay, here's another 200. It's all about perception. It absolutely is.
And I think
so.
Just like one final thought, clients are not going to be upset about getting a bill early or about being told the price, right?
Yeah.
About you not saying, hey, I'm going to surprise you with a $20,000 bill in about 2 months. Good luck and pay it, right? Like, I think most clients want that. And the more we do that, because that's what they do in the rest of their life, the more it's like, important to do it that way. So
yeah, that was something I was going to mention as well. I know we talked about it earlier and we talked about it in another one of our fire sessions as well, is really matching the experience that they're doing in the rest of their life. Sometimes I think, even the way that we've worded this question is kind of calling this out in particular. The firm is the one who's worried about this. Maybe the client isn't as worried as you think. I think we have a lot of practices in the legal industry that maybe are very different from what people are doing in their everyday life. And it's almost, we mentioned this earlier, it's like kind of a no-brainer that you would mirror the way that they live their life. We talked about this yesterday. You don't go to a restaurant and then they send you a bill 6 weeks later. That doesn't happen, right? And, we're going to talk about this a little bit more later about, payment plans and, scheduling payments and that kind of thing. But people are really already used to that. So, maybe we can rethink this fear that we have into we're actually meeting them where they're at with the rest of how they live their life, as opposed to maybe we were the ones who were doing it differently.
Yeah, absolutly. No, I agree.
We are the ones doing it differently.
Right. I didn't call you out. And the first So speaking about meeting our clients where they're at, we're going to talk a little bit about friction and kind of making that payment process a little bit easier, both on the firm and on the clients. So one of the questions I'd love for you guys to answer is, what are some key ways that firms can really improve their payment experience? And especially I'd love to talk about it for mobile first or more tech savvy clients. Yeah. Absolutely. Which I think is so important for us to talk about. So
yeah, I mean, a lot of firms that I've worked with over the years are very anti-credit card because I don't want to pay the 3% merchant service fee. I try to reframe that because I would rather pay the 3% fee and not have to chase down checks. And in these days, you don't know how. So most people are not writing checks. They don't have check stock anymore. I don't have checks for any of my checking accounts. I'm on online bill pay, right? So now you have to wait for, if you're only taking checks, you have to wait for that person to be in the mood to log into their, log into their banking app, type in the stuff to be able to hit send. And now you're at the mercy of the bank has to process that payment, print the check, put it in the mail. Now you're at the mercy of the U.S. Postal Service who, good luck with getting that delivered. And then now you have your person, whoever captures, your mail, now they have to manually key that information in and they have to stamp the back, or if you do remote deposit, whatever, but they have to process and that takes time.
And hopefully they're in the
exactly.
That they didn't.
Because what if, right, exactly. Or what if your person goes on vacation and now your checks are going to pile up? And so I argue to pay the 3% fee is so much minimal cost.
Right. When you factor in everything,
when you factor in all the other stuff,
right? Is that worth 3%?
It's absolutely worth 3%. And if you're really truly hesitant, then increase all your fees across the board 5%, and you're ahead of the game. Absolutely, absolutely. But just make it easy. It's not about being easy for you. It's being easy for the client to pay. Whether you have individual or business clients, make it easy for them to pay. So with the mobile first idea, a link that they just click, whether they're on their phone or their device or their computer or whatever it is, that it takes them directly to their bill and they can just type in their credit card information, click send. Because these days, most people have, a wallet or whatever electronic on their device and it just populates exactly, and they just approve it. So just, making it so easy. Put yourself in your client's shoes. Make it easy for them. I mean, think about what you resist to pay, right?
Right.
So
I think about it too, like they're back to kind of what our lives are already like, right? You're used to paying, you're used to clicking the phone, you're used to going on a into a portal, accessing your medical information, accessing all this other information. So one, yes, make it easy, but then make it easy for them to find it. Because the other thing I think that happens with tech savvy clients is like they want to be able to make that decision at that moment. They're walking around somewhere. If it's a click, if they're walking around, they're looking inside their portal, they can see what's outstanding, right? Like just really thinking about what that experience is like for them, model it, run yourself through it to see, are there hiccups? Am I missing something? Did I explain what this is for? Right? Like I think most people want clarity. They want ease. They want consistency. So the more you make your payment process consistent every single time, how do they pay you? It's consistent. Where do they go to pay you? It's always consistent. Like it allows for the client to know, okay, it's done. I clicked it. I can go see that my bill is paid. But more importantly, then they can move to the thing that they hired you for, which is to actually do the work, right? And so I think when we are thinking about, tech savvy people, I would say if you're here, you're really thinking about the technology in your business, then what do you need to do to make it so that they will say yes to you at every moment? There's an opportunity to say yes. And one of those moments is payment. Some of those moments are filing something. And I think it's just kind of taking that same approach. So
yeah.
No,
I agree. Absolutely.
The one other thing I would say with tech savvy people too is that they like transparency, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So I think like the other part is it's not simply when we think about tech savvy, I think we're always thinking about just being on the phone and doing the things.
Yeah.
But it's also just like, what's the mindset? What is that person like in their day to day? They're used to having clarity in all aspects. So I think part of that payment process being easy, using a portal, using a link, even with we were saying before with checks, if you use a payment processor that allows for you to, if you want to do a check, you could do it through ACH.
Absolutely.
And it's much more secure.
Yes.
You're going to actually get paid. Nothing is going to bounce because they have to actually take that money for it to go.
The funds have to be available before it processes.
I just think there's so much ways when you're thinking about a tech savvy client that you can bring actual tech into it to make their entire experience from start to finish.
No, I agree. And you're right. With the tech savvy people, it is about making that decision in the moment. Because if I'm out with my kids, I've got 2 teen girls. If I'm out, we're running errands and, or we're standing in line at Starbucks. My youngest has a Starbucks. I've like, oh my goodness. I don't even drink coffee, but she drinks all the fluffy drinks. And so we'll be in line waiting for her drink to come up and I'll check my email. And if I have an opportunity to clear an email on my inbox because I can just click a button and say, yes, approve, I'm done. And then you don't want to flood people too much with information either. So, I mean, you kind of have to weigh, because now I get a ton of invoices by email and then I see my inbox, I open it up, I haven't looked at it in, 20 minutes. Now there's 50 things. And, I always have that goal of the 0 inbox that never happens, but so you kind of have to balance how often you're communicating with your clients, but yeah, absolutely. I mean, just meeting them where they are and making it easy. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Yeah. And I think too, the flip side, and this is going a little bit off script there, so forgive me. I think when you are the one element in their life that is doing something very different and very not tech savvy, you kind of stick out like a sore thumb a little bit. We were mentioning this, that, the way that they are paying the rest of their life, whether, they're doing tap to pay at the grocery store or, they have scheduled payments set up, for their utilities or whatever it is, the more different that our processes are, the more glaringly obvious they are going to be that it's different.
Yes. And I mean, I don't know about y'all, but I've hired lawyers, and I've hired lawyers that had me, before I could submit a payment, I had to sign my engagement and download it and then send it back. Like all these things are friction points, right? And so it's just, I think take a step back because it makes it easier for you. It makes it easier for you to have cash flow, makes it easier for you to say yes to that client and then move to the next client, right? And I'm not saying you're letting them go, but what you're saying, what you're able to do is spend your time most effectively. You and your team can sit in your zone of genius in the best way, right? And these solutions, if you're thinking of how do I make my life easier? How can I remove the thing that I can bring consistency to, that a technology piece can do that doesn't remove human, but it actually makes it consistent, and then I can scale it. And that's, I think, in this day and age when we're all thinking about AI and all these tools and how do we integrate it, there are easy lifts that we can do in our business. Payment is probably the easiest lift.
Yes.
That you can then remove that friction, remove that admin resource, a drain, and then put it to something else that allows for you to make more money.
And I like that you mentioned the word scale, because I have a conversation often about, I'll say scale and somebody will say, well, yeah, grow. Well, grow and scale are two different things. Growing is just mass. It's just accumulating the most amount of work as possible. But scale is doing it smarter. It's doing it more efficiently. So you can take on more work with the same team size. And so, yeah, you automate the couple things that you can without removing the human touch. I mean, when we get to the end of the day, professional services are personal. Okay. So you can't ever remove the human touch to this, but the more that you can automate, make things faster, you can maintain your same team size and take on more work. That's the scale part, is doing things faster, but for more people. So, or more clients. Yeah.
One of our speakers mentioned to me yesterday, and I will give credit where it's due when I remember, but somebody said you can't scale chaos.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, wow,
That
that
is-
was a really
Yeah,
good
that was
quote.
a
I
good
thought
one,
I was
yeah.
like, I'm going to take that one.
Yeah. And that's true. And I think that's what bringing systems around your payment, bringing systems so that you can get paid smarter and faster, right, is allowing for you to prep yourself without having to necessarily grow your team. And I know there's like different team sizes here, right?
Yeah.
You could be a team of 2, a team of 1, a team of 30, a team of 100, whatever it matters. Today, we all know that the way our firms will look will be different in the next 6 months, the next year, and the next 2 years. And so you want to think through opportunities to allow for you to serve clients in the most effective way. And the only way you can serve them ongoing is to get paid, right?
Absolutely.
And to me, the easiest way when you're thinking about this is like from this time you potentially start, interacting with a client in the marketing space to the time they get on a sales call, it's like there are so many opportunities to make payment faster.
Yes.
Because your payment is faster is because they trust you better. And so, just do all the things along the way to remove all the admin and then make the human touch and as good as possible so they can say yes to you every time, even if it's the first payment or the 100th payment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Kim, you mentioned something a few minutes ago that leads really well into our next conversation and our next topic, which is talking about payment plans. And that I know is a hot topic. So my question for you both is really, do you feel, or will you share with the audience, should every client be offered a payment plan? Are there kind of criteria that maybe firms should use or think about when they're deciding? Or what are your thoughts on this topic? I'd love to hear.
You want to go?
Kelley?
Okay.
You're both so nice.
Tag, you're it. Yeah, I mean, for me, I do think payment plans should be offered, but not to everybody. And it should not be offered in the onset. Wait until you present a bill or you're meeting with a client and you quote them and say, hey, this engagement, I'm going to bill hourly. I believe it's going to be about 20 grand. We would never, but if we did, if we pretend, and then they come back, if they come back and push and say 20 grand, I just can't do that in one check. So at that point, then if they were, if they've been a returning client, now you have some history with them. Okay, so now you feel a little bit more comfortable offering them a payment plan. If I'm offering a payment plan, it's going to match as best as possible the length of the case. So if it's 20 grand and it'll be over 20 months, then 1,000 a month. I can go that far. I don't ever want to see a payment plan that extends beyond
That's a really good
the
tip.
case resolution.
Yeah.
If you can know this,
Right.
with some reasonable, in most cases you can with some reasonable, you can guess how long it's going to take, because people stop paying once their case is resolved and they're like, yes, I'm done.
I got what I needed.
I got what I needed. It's all resolved. I don't have to go
Right.
back to court. And so that becomes the low priority payment for them. And now you're chasing the dollar. And I don't want to see that happen. So
Yeah, I'm a no, everyone should not be offered a payment plan but I mean, I think you should have it as a part of like your arsenal. Like what are the things that you are going to be offering? Yes, it's one, but I think ultimately we don't want to be the bank, right? Like you got into business to grow and scale, to be able to support and pay for all the things you need to operate, one of which is yourself and then your team. And so when you offer payment plans, sometimes the issue is you become the bank.
Yes.
And so take a step back. If you're going to offer it, then it needs to be with an understanding your terms. Like how are you managing payments generally speaking? So like it doesn't feel totally out of whack with the rest of your business, right? You want it to be aligned. You want it to make sense. And so develop your terms, understand, what happens if they're going to be late on a payment, because that's the reality.
Yeah.
Like some
Absolutely.
of the research says, and like payment researchers. So I do a lot of things like looking at checkouts and like what are like the common ways checkout across any industry. But like one of the things that they say is after, 3 or 4 payments, people drop off. So you have to take that in consideration, right? When you're on a payment plan and you deliver the entire thing, and now they still have, like Kelley was just saying, they still have payments left, are they going to still pay? So first, to me, the reason why I wouldn't offer it is if you don't have payment systems built in, because then you're going to be chasing. It's going to be a lot of
Anything
admin.
manual.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. But and if you do, then understand like what it is and communicate that well and often. And you have to get comfortable telling the client if they've missed a payment. Like if you're not comfortable with that conversation, don't offer the payment plan. If you don't think the client is going to be able, if the client's pushback is timing, not cost, okay, maybe payment plan makes sense, right? But if cost is the pushback, then there's another issue.
Absolutely.
Right? That the payment plan is not going to
Absolutely.
necessarily solve.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think there are options that you can provide and then let the client take that risk on, right? If they need to do it. And I want to be thoughtful and I believe in affordable, accessible, widely available legal services. I think it's a problem in our industry. And I think payment plans can move the needle. But when we offer them to the wrong people at the wrong time, it doesn't move the needle. It just creates a lot of friction in the relationships.
Yes.
So that's kind of the things that I would be thinking about if you do offer it today. Do you have terms? Like what happens if they're late? Who's it offered to? Who's it not offered to? Right. And the thing is, you want to give it as you don't want to give it to one and not the other if it doesn't make sense. Like make it a part of your normal process so that it's not singling out one type of client over the next. It's really just offering as a way. But if you don't have a system, a standard, a process for it, then it's going to be haphazard and chaotic.
Yeah.
And then lead to so many other frictions and possible problems in your business from compliance and other things that it would be, not the way I would.
Counterintuitive to what you originally wanted.
Exactly. And I would even add for payment plans, I'm setting up on automatic payments, whether that's automatic to a credit card or automatic ACH, but just automatic. So your system goes in. I know we can do it in my case. You can go in and set up. This client's going to pay me 6 payments of $500 every month or every week or whatever that frequency is. Set it, let it go on auto pay and then you're only chasing, what got rejected for some reason.
And then truly, when you're doing it, thinking about process, going into the weeds, what happens when that payment is missed, right? Again, having a process, because that's a reality. Payments may not be missed because someone's being a jerk. They can really miss it because they changed their credit card. They lost their credit card. It got stolen. Right. Things happen. Right.
Yeah.
So then you get the ping that says, hey, payment didn't happen. Do you have a process to follow up?
Yes.
And then make sure you're back on track. So I think they're great opportunities. The drop, and that's a lot of the things in our businesses, particularly around money, is that we don't have a process. And a process allows for you to scale money because you know what's supposed to happen next and you feel comfortable about talking about the next.
Yeah. It's all about having the plan.
Yeah. And you mentioned something, Kim, that we talked about yesterday that, LawPay in my case do offer as well, which is pay later, which is another kind of extension of a payment plan that kind of removes the lawyer, which is also a choice. We want to make sure that's available to everyone. And as you mentioned, we're not singling people out by saying this is available for you, but not you. But, there are solutions out there like Pay Later that can even further remove you as the lawyer if you want that, if that's something you're interested in. There's lots of ways when we say, payment plans can mean a lot of different.
Yes.
Absolutely. You can structure it how you want. And so, but I'm with Kim, remove yourself from being the bank. That's where firms fall into problems, is when you're trying to be the bank for all your clients. And now you're up all night worried about you can't make payroll on Friday. And it's because you've got 50 grand in AR. When are people going to pay me? When are people going to pay me? I don't know. And that's the problem. And when you can become more predictable with your billing, you get more predictable collections. And when you can do auto payments, stuff like that, it helps get money in your bank faster. It's going to be the same amount of money. Just it's there faster. And now you have, it's just so much less stress. It's a relief to know you have money in the accounts when you need to make all your bill payments, your rent, your employees, your payroll, when you need a distribution, it's all there. So,
and not maybe it's a little too, but I've been in this situation. I've, sent out bills and the bills didn't get paid. When back in a long time ago when I did hourly. And that is not a good feeling.
Yeah.
Not for you, not for the client. And the client sometimes doesn't realize they're not getting paid because you send the bill out. That's a whole nother conversation. But if they're not paying you, it's just causing them anxiety too. So I think removing that risk of being the bank, letting them take on that risk, you have opportunities to now give them solutions, right? I believe in offering solutions, and that's right. The solution should just try not to be the bank. That's it.
Yeah. Right. I mean, because I've seen it in the PI space where now that's a whole different animal because it's contingent. and you have to wait until that case settles. I get that part, but you have all the advanced client costs. But there's businesses out there now that will finance your advanced costs so that you can get through to settlement. Then when you get the settlement, they get their cut to pay off the advanced costs. But those companies exist because there was a problem. So it's all about removing as much risk from you as possible, which you can't eliminate as a business, but reduce.
So I'm going to double click on this collections comment a little bit that we've talked about a little bit here. So, we all know that collections are uncomfortable. They can be uncomfortable. I think they just are uncomfortable. Full stop.
Yep.
How can firms maybe reframe those conversations as maybe a natural part of client services a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, do you want to go first?
She's on the side of broken.
Yeah. Well, I don't, but that's the upside with predictable kind of pricing, right? So you don't have to think about collection. So of course, if you move to flat fee, if you move to subscriptions, the advantage is that you don't have AR or accounts receivable. You don't have these outstanding things, but that's not everyone's reality, right? You have money that might be outstanding. There could be some hiccup in the process, even in a flat fee and a subscription. But to me, it's really about having the conversation up front. So I started my career in business, right? And one of the things we always say when you're starting a business is talk about the exit, right? And so it's kind of the same with the clients. Like there's an exit. The exit could be happy exit because we wrapped up the case. There could be maybe slightly unhappy because there's an outstanding bill and we can't, service you and support you in the way you want. So if you talk about it in the beginning and it's a part of your communication plan, a part of your payment policy, and you tell the clients, hey, this is how we operate. If you're, 7 days past due, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So you don't have to talk about it at the first time when the issue is happening. Yeah. You talk about it ahead of the time so they understand what the process is. You might have it laid out in a nice place for them to link at, go into your portal, have it so they can, see something as they need to. But then when it does happen, and then in a nice way, you communicate, you follow up. I like to think of collections truly as like the nice follow-up. Yes. To say, hey, looks like we had a hiccup. Yeah. Can we, we just need to get back on track with payment. Do you want us to update this? What is a nice friendly way? And you have to be consistent and follow up, because if you don't, then it's just going to be what I've heard, 5 million AR, 500,000 AR, like what in the world?
Right.
Right? Because you just didn't have the conversation or you didn't have a consistent follow-up. So I think it's like backdooring to think about collections as it's going to happen. So how do I plan for it? How do I plan for it early with communication to our clients, right? And telling them, hey, this is what happens, this is how we work, and then follow through.
No, absolutely. So if a firm comes to me and their first, they tell me my struggle, my pain is that I don't have cash in the bank, I can't pay my bills. My first go-to is, are you billing with a cadence, right? The next, and if they're like, yes, I'm really good, it's always the first of the month. Okay, awesome. Now you're still struggling. Why? Okay, AR keeps growing all the time. Okay, that plan now becomes, let's write out your standard operating procedure about collections. And I like to be able to see, I have what I don't really say template because it's not the same, but it's a starting point. Okay. So I have a starting point that, day one late, a text goes out, and even define like day one late, a text message goes out. This is the message. But also make sure who in your firm is doing this, okay? Or if it can be automated. I know in my case, we can set up texts, we can set up automated emails. And so, and then maybe at 7 days late, it's an email that goes out. Right. And maybe at 10 or 14 days, it's now, somebody in accounts receivable, whoever handles your billing and your collections. And then maybe if it's still late at 21 days, now the lead attorney or the originating attorney needs to make a phone call, give them the script so they don't have to think. Make it as easy as possible. And so if you can have, a calendar reminder that, hey, this bill is now 21 days past due, an attorney needs to get involved to make the phone call, and just have your plan laid out for like 60 days. Yep. I mean, we hope it never gets that far. Right. I know.
We don't want that.
But have the plan, and, by the end, it should be now your managing partner is now sending a certified letter. What can we do? And I agree with Kim. The message is not, I'm angry, pay now, I'm done. It's not that message. It's, hey, we understand things happen. You give them the benefit of the doubt. It's more of a reminder, but you do need to escalate the sentiment with each, and then once you get to the end, you're just kind of like, now you have to tell them, if we're getting a managing partner involved and I'm sending a certified letter, now we have things that are going to happen, like real things are going to happen, but hopefully you get their attention. And sometimes, I mean, I've had firms where, they're not getting paid because the bill went to somebody who's been on vacation and nobody's monitoring that inbox,
Right.
or it went to somebody who's no longer with the firm or their client,
These
at
are
that
process
business.
issues, right?
Abs-
These are process issues.
absolutely,
It's
absolutely.
like someone just didn't have the process set up to say what if, right? And I think that's the hard part when we're building
Yes.
out our systems around different things. We're not thinking about the what ifs because you're just operating.
Yeah.
And so like if you have a huge team, then great. But if you're like a solo and you wear every single function,
Right.
you have to think about all the functions that you're wearing and put yourself in that functional role when you're
Right.
doing the thing.
Right.
Right. So like who needs to escalate it? Even if it's you're wearing the hat of the person following up.
Right.
And you're wearing the hat of the supervisor following up. Then you're wearing the hat of the managing partner following up. Even if it's just you.
Exactly.
You are the one person,
Exactly.
but
Yeah.
you one solo
Yeah.
has to
Yeah.
wear all those hats. And then when you're building out these processes, build them out to wear and fit those different hats so that you can follow up in the right way.
Right.
But to me, like a lot of that comes down to like not thinking through the what ifs.
Right.
But great part for all of us right now is that we have tools to help us.
Absolutely.
Like
Yeah.
you use whatever AI tool you love of your choice, hopefully a paid one,
Right.
right? Of your choice that you
Right.
like. This has no client information.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about that. But what you could do is build out what is the communication workflow that I want to create to
Yes.
deal with a client that is late, right? Up to 90 days, build me out a cadence that matches best practices for collections, that is empathetic, that is client-centered,
Yeah.
that is supportive, but that increases in, what's the word I'm thinking? That increases in like urgency.
Yeah.
Right?
Urgency. Absolutely.
That increases in urgency.
Yeah.
And then use these tools and then put it in
Yes.
your
Automate what you
platform.
can. Yes.
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 Run, iterate,
Right.
keep going. I
Yes.
think that's
Yeah, not to go off this, Kim, but I think, Kelley, what you mentioned was so important too when it is a solo, because, you are, yes, wearing different hats. So we can't say the same message 10 times in
Right,
a row. So now,
exactly,
it is the
exactly.
same person. So
Right,
it does need
right,
to really,
right.
you need to double down on that,
Yes,
increased urgency every time.
Yeah.
Right, absolutely. And really you don't know how your client, like some clients prefer text, some prefer email,
Yeah.
some prefer a phone call, they all prefer something different. So that's where I like if I have a 60-day collection process, it's not all text, because that might be going to somebody who is like, delete.
right.
So mix it
That's
up.
the reason why
Exactly,
you're
because
here.
you don't know why. Exactly. You don't know why you ended up there. And sometimes, there's always the times where you email an invoice out and it didn't go through for whatever reason. And sometimes it didn't bounce back for whatever reason. It could have ended in their spam folder. And so they just really, truly didn't get it. And they don't know they didn't get it. That's the problem. So that's where you have the friendly to escalating. But do the different types of messages between text and email. Phone calls. I know how hard it is these days. Oh, pick up the phone.
Okay, so I have one question for you both to round out this fire session. So what's one, maybe, outdated billing habit you think every firm should let go of today?
I already know we have the same answer, but go.
Okay. Well, okay. And it's not going to be surprising. I'm going to say hourly billing, but I'll say this, lack of transparent pricing, right? So maybe I hate hourly. I think everyone should stop hourly billing, but really it's transparent pricing. And that allows for you to collect money faster, right? When
Yes.
people know what they're going to pay, they can make a decision if they're going to pay it. If it's transparent, it's clearly identified, it's clearly communicated, and then you can feel confident and committing to that price, because legal services are not like, you just negotiate it back and forth. It is a price point. Sometimes it's a higher price point. But I think when we're transparent, when we're clear, when we communicate that to our clients, that allows us to make more money and make more money faster, because we can confidently share those prices and confidently collect if we're not getting paid
Right.
for the invoices that we sent out.
And because the answer, so for hourly billing, if you do hourly billing, you might be sitting there saying, but they know my price. It's $400 an hour. Okay, yeah, but they only know one part of that equation. It's $400 per hour. How many hours? They don't know the hour part until you send them the bill, right? And so that's why hourly, it's like semi-transparent because yes, they know, but no matter how much you tell them, they're not always listening to when you're doing your intake and your first meeting with them. And they may come to you, I don't know, with, divorce, because I'm divorced. So, when I spoke to my attorney, she was like, well, it's this much an hour. And if he doesn't contest anything, it'll be this much. So at a minimum, you're looking here. But depending on what his hot topics are, it could go off on this. And now you're in the unknown. So it's about, so yes, I knew the hourly rate, but until the hours, you don't know that part.
So
So you've got to have,
ranges?
so ranges, absolutely. And I like the idea of, we've talked about this before, scope, being able to scope out an engagement. So somebody comes to you and, whatever their issue is, you at least give them ranges of, okay, here's what we're going to work on. It's this much per hour, if you just can't get over it, but it should cost it should be this many hours. And if I have a problem, I'm going to contact you at this point.
Yeah.
And we might be, and now you're going to have this huge decision tree. If this happens, but better ranges with stuff. But yeah, I mean, we're definitely on the same page with get rid of hourly to the point you can. I know there's going to be, depending on the practice type, there's going to be a huge, there's probably people that are like,
I know. You time doesn't matter. But anyway, yeah.
I understand, but if you can get away.
Meet me in Austin, we'll talk about it.
Yes, come in September.
Perfect. Well, that's a great transition. I want to thank you both so much for sharing your insights. As it's just a reminder, they will both be at Kaleidoscope. So if you want to hear more from them and be able to talk to them one-on-one, definitely join us at Kaleidoscope. But thank you both so much.
Thanks, Erika. Running a successful law firm takes more than legal expertise. It requires financial mastery, strategic planning, and data-driven decision-making. At my accounting firm, Profit Scale Thrive, we specialize in helping law firms achieve lasting profitability by providing tailored financial guidance, optimizing cash flow, and equipping you with the insights needed to scale with confidence. Ready to take your firm's finances to the next level? Join our private community for law firm owners called Your Profitable Law Firm Community. Each month, we dive deep into essential topics about the business side of running a law firm. This is your opportunity to connect with other firm owners, share challenges, and discover proven solutions in a supportive environment. Visit ProfitScaleThrive.com today to join our community and access resources specifically designed for law firm owners just like you. Have a question about today's episode? Drop a comment below. Know of another firm owner struggling with their finances? Share this episode. It might be exactly what they need. Click that subscribe button to get notified when we release new episodes with more practical financial insights for your firm. If you found value in today's discussion, please take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback helps other law firm owners find this content. And remember, profit is something you intentionally plan for in the beginning. It's not a potential bonus at the end of the year. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you inside the Your Profitable Law Firm community.
This is going to